I'm Brooke Silva Braga. Thanks so much for joining us on this Friday. A lot more to discuss, especially on immigration. President Trump today basically saying don't bother to House Republicans as they struggle to pass a comprehensive immigration bill that would meet the president's border demands as well as address the separation of families. Now, this comes after House leaders delayed a vote on what the Republicans called a compromise bill until next week. A more conservative bill already failed to pass the House yesterday. Now, this morning, the president tweeted Republicans should stop wasting their time on immigration until after we elect more senators and congressmen and women in November. Of course, the president has long blamed Democrats for immigration problems, but today's tweet is a change from what he's been saying previously about passing legislation.
That's the Democrats' law. We can change it tonight. We can change it right now. It's so sad. And it can be taken care of quickly, beautifully, and we'll have safety. And all we need is good legislation, and we can have it taken care of. It's a very unfair situation, and we're going to stop it. We're going to have laws by the time, as soon as I can do it. So we're going to work very hard with Mike Pence and with everybody else in this room. We're going to work very hard to see if we can solve the immigration problem.
For more on all this, I want to bring in Niall Stanage. He is a White House columnist for The Hill. Good to see you. First off, the why. The president has been so reluctant to reverse himself on anything. Why was this case different?
Well, I did a fair bit of reporting on that myself, and there were a number of different factors.
You did. That's why I asked you this as a question.
Very kind. So one White House official noted to me that the First Lady, Melania Trump, had made her views clear to her husband over a period of days. That's more than we initially thought. We had known that she had sent a tweet, but she seems to have consistently made that point. Ivanka Trump was purportedly also very worried about this story, thought it reflected very poorly on her father's administration. In addition to that, I mean, there were obviously very many emotionally potent images, including the one that was reflected on the Time magazine cover that you showed a couple of moments ago, that engendered, I think, or put a point on already very critical media coverage, clearly elicited a very strong response from people, you know, in the nation generally.
The president knows a bad image when he sees one.
He does, yeah. He's someone who has obviously spent a lot of time in television before he entered his political career fairly late in his life. He knows the power of television. He knows the power of mass media. He knows that, as we say, a picture can be worth 1,000 words, and all of the pictures here were telling a very bad story for him and his administration.
Okay, let's talk legislation now. Last night, the president reportedly told House Republicans we need to pass this compromise bill. Now he tweets out early this morning, don't waste your time. What do we make of that?
What we make of that is that it goes to a problem that Republicans in Washington have had with the president all through his tenure, and that is that they're just not sure where he stands. And when you get into the weeds of legislation, particularly on a complicated issue like immigration, that unnerves Republicans. They don't know whether he is going to have their back if they take a difficult vote from their point of view. It goes all the way back, you may remember, Brooke, the healthcare debate where the president at one time held a celebration for a bill passed by the House that he then subsequently derided as cruel. Those kind of patterns breed mistrust even among members of his own party.
Well, let's get ourselves into a little bit of the weeds of what this bill that the House is trying to pass next week would do. What is in this bill?
Okay, so it goes to the 4 pillars that President Trump has based his own immigration policy on. One is protection for the so-called Dreamers, people who were protected by the DACA program under President Obama. The other side of it is $25 billion for border security, in other words, perceived to be President Trump's wall. And then the other couple of matters go to the diversity visa lottery, which President Trump wants to end, and some sense of curbing family-based immigration, which of course opponents call chain migration. But I think the 2 crucial points are the path to citizenship for Dreamers. That's very controversial with Conservatives, and the money for the border wall, which Democrats are adamantly against so far.
And is this a compromise some Democrats could get behind?
It's difficult because this issue is so emotionally charged at the moment. While the child separation issue is a separate issue. It has, I think, poisoned the well for a possibility of compromise. People are so angry about this, particularly on the Liberal side of the equation, that it makes any move by Democrats to reach common ground with Republicans very problematic with their own supporters.
So in that sense, the president's tweet this morning could be right, that nothing can get passed unless the Republicans have a red wave in the fall. I wonder if you have an impression of how these images and this issue is cutting as we look forward to the midterms. Is this good for Democrats? Is it good for Republicans? Is it hard to say?
I think it's better for Democrats than Republicans. I mean, clearly there were a lot of Republicans who criticised the president more than we've seen on any other issue to my recollection. I think it also energises the Liberal voters who have in previous midterms not come out in such big numbers. So in that sense, I think that it is good for Democrats. Sometimes immigration has been argued to play to President Trump's base, but the polling figures we saw on the separations issue suggested that there was very, very widespread opposition to it. Support was only running at 25, 26, 27%. That's really down to the hard core of his base. A lot of other people seemed very adamantly opposed.
Okay. Niall Stanage, thanks so much.
Thanks, Brooke.